right. Looks like we've got a good chunk of people in, so I think we will get started. So let me welcome everyone to say thank you so much for joining our session today. I am Kate O'Donnell, the Senior Vice President of Marketing Communications for MCI USA, and I'm really excited today to have with us Nicole Quain and Tatiana Pre-Lorenzo, who in just a minute are going to present on a topic very near and dear to my heart, social media for associations. Before we dive in, I have a couple of quick housekeeping notes. We all miss being very face-to-face, and we would love to see you. So if you are in a place where you are comfortable turning on your camera, please do so. We really want this presentation to be as interactive as possible. And on that note, we want to hear from you how you are using social media with your organization. So we will be using LinkedIn polls several times throughout the presentation to get your insights, and we'll post the link to each poll in the chat when that time comes. We will also welcome your questions, your comments. Use that chat to let us know your thoughts and to ask any questions you have, and we'll have times throughout the session where we will get to those questions. And lastly, this session is being recorded and streamed live on Facebook. So we will send a link to the recording and to all of our registrants after our session today. So with that, I will turn it over to Nicole and Tatiana to introduce themselves and enjoy the session.
Thank you, Kate. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to virtually see you all. My name is Nicole Quain. I'm a digital marketing manager at MCI USA. I've been with MCI for almost 2 years now, and I work on a variety of association clients in all different kinds of industries. Within my roles in the digital capacity, I certainly have a large focus on social media. So I'm really excited to talk to you guys today about how to make the most of the platforms and how to measure your success.
Great. I'm Tatiana, joining you from South Africa. I'm currently a junior marketing manager within the most amazing global digital marketing team within the MCI group. I've been with the company now for going on 6 years, unbelievable, and mostly specializing in digital marketing solutions for association events and awareness activations.
Thank you, Tatiana. Wonderful. Well, we'll get into the agenda now. I just want to touch on the things that we will be covering today. So obviously we'll be covering social media and associations, which is wonderful, and seeing how the two work together. Other things we'll be touching on are key social media metrics for associations, and we will be sharing several examples in terms of awareness campaigns, engagement campaigns, and conversion campaigns. Towards the end of the presentation, we'll walk through paid versus organic advertising. We'll talk about some consumer trends we're seeing in the US market, and we'll talk about paid campaigns and their success.
Fantastic. So let's get started. So especially over the past years, we've seen how technology has really brought people together, and more people have taken to their devices as a way to sort of stay connected and know what's happening around the world. So your association should really be capitalizing on this trend. Today, it stands at 49% of the entire population is on social media. That's a staggering 3.8 billion human beings. And of those, 89% are active on social media on a monthly basis.
3.8 billion people. That is a lot of potential and current members out there just ready for us to communicate with them. So this slide is really fun, and we really want to bridge that gap between associations and social media. So we need to start at the foundation. The foundation of associations are built on community, networking, providing education and resources, whether it's for a trade or a specific profession, professional profession. Social media is a platform that's facilitating the exchange of ideas in virtual communities. It is a place where we are building community as well. We are also offering education, and it's also a place with great networking skills. So if you put them together, it is the ultimate sandwich. It is the ultimate return on investment driver. It is a great place to grow and engage with not only a current audience, but prospective audiences. And it is one of the best ways that you can measure results and report back to your key stakeholders with, this is what our efforts were, and this is how it helps the bottom line.
Great. So, I mean, the first step in establishing your social presence is deciding, of course, which channels you're going to be investing your time and resources into. So, our main piece of advice here is to follow your audience and not the trend. As an association, you need to have a really good think about who you're actually trying to speak with. Are you looking to potentially reach a very generic public audience? Perhaps you're trying to engage with prospective members, grow your audience databases. Perhaps you're looking to grow relationships with your affiliated organizations, or perhaps get funding from sponsors. I mean, you could even go even deeper into that, by, using demographic parameters to really shape these personas. You could go into regional and international targeting or international targeting. You could go into different age groups, income brackets, levels of seniority. I mean, the sky is really the limit in terms of how niche you can go. And by establishing these key personas very early in your strategy, it's going to ultimately guide you in your decision on which channels you're going to be active on.
That's right. And this bar graph that you see here is an excellent representation that there are a lot of social media options out there, right? We've got Facebook that everyone has a huge audience, YouTube, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger. And so something associations need to be very cognizant of is building strong content and strong social media campaigns does take time. It takes people, effort, and resources. And so instead of trying to do everything well, pick a few things and do them extraordinarily. Just pick a few and do some really strong strategies. So we'll kind of get into that now.
Absolutely. So once you've kind of chosen your channels and you've defined your audiences, it's time to get into the nitty-gritty. So it's time to choose your key motives for your social strategy. So there are three essential main intentions behind publishing content, and that is awareness, engagement, and conversions. Now, the crux of it all and what we're really trying to come across here is that your strategy and how you measure the success of your campaigns are entirely dictated by your key motives. So through the next few slides, we're going to be focusing in on each one of these key motives, showcasing a few of our outstanding practices and what we've managed to achieve according to these set motives. So over to you, Nicole, on the first one.
Great, thank you. So the first motive that we're going to dive into are awareness campaigns. And we start with this one because this is the very first fundamental type of campaign. You can't encourage engagement and you certainly can't have conversions if folks don't know you exist. So awareness campaigns tend to be a very fundamental and popular campaign, not only within associations, but within brands of all different kinds, for profit and otherwise. Some key metrics that are used to monitor in awareness campaigns are follower growth. And again, you can compare that to industry averages. And reach and impressions. So reach and impressions measure how many eyeballs are on the content that you are putting out there on your different channels. And so generating awareness can be kind of broad in terms of you can generate awareness for the brand itself. You could generate awareness around an event. You can generate awareness around membership benefits. Really, the sky's the limit in terms of what types of awareness campaigns you can run. So before we get into the first example, we want to hear from you guys. So we are going to post a poll on MCI USA's LinkedIn account. So we will place this poll in the chat.
The plat is the chat link is there for everyone to see.
Yep, perfect. So if you click on that link and take our poll, the question we are asking you all is your association's social media strategy generating awareness? We'll give you guys just about a minute here to go in and let us know how your social media strategy is doing in the awareness area.
And we've had some interesting conversations on the chat so far, just talking about which channels people avoid or what we're using and we're not using. So I think it's interesting around the different channels and who's using what and why. I think we'll cover that a little bit later too, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Great. Okay, we will touch base on the responses to the poll later on in the presentation. So I'm going to move forward, but still feel free to go in and take our poll if you haven't already. Great. Okay, so the first example we're going to touch on is leveraging different media for awareness. So this specific example is from the Interstitial Cystitis Association, it's also known as ICA, and ICA promotes awareness around interstitial cystitis, which is a medical condition. So for ICA, for quite a bit of time, we had been running static advertisements. We had been running just an image or with some text over it and, you know, a call to action to visit the website. And really the goal of those was to get folks to go onto ICA's website to a specific web page and get information about this medical condition. So the ask was not to, you know, buy anything. The ask was simply to just raise awareness. So we weren't necessarily seeing, you know, as high of a result as we knew we could reach. And so we thought to ourselves, what can we do to take this awareness campaign to the next level? And so what we decided to do was some A/B testing, so testing different creatives. And one of the things we had found was using a video ad or a dynamic display certainly help push our awareness. And so I know some folks are a little nervous to try different things on social, and it can be, you know, will our audience like this? You know, this is a bit of a jump. You know, a lot of times with the right testing and a strong strategy and a very well-based knowledge of your audience and your target market, it's okay to take those calculated risks because they oftentimes really pay off. Here's a perfect example of that. We had a video. The motive was to reach women 55 and older through Facebook using this dynamic creative. And we ran this campaign for about almost a week long in March of 2020. And the results were we got over 1,000 clicks through to the webpage. We reached over 46,000 people, and our total page view traffic was over 8,900 in that month alone. So it just goes to show, you know, if you have a strong strategy and you're willing to take calculated risks, you can really go far with an awareness campaign.
Amazing. So we're going to go on to another case study that we did for World Glaucoma Association. Our brief here was to establish their brand across their allocated channels by championing the various activities within the association. So we ran this campaign for 1 year, and during this time, the posts were seen 2.3 million times, and we managed to grow their Facebook audience alone by 880%. Now, when it comes to establishing a quality audience and growing your membership base, our advice here is to be consistent, but still be interesting, as confusing as that may sound. So when we speak about consistency, you know, we're talking about making sure that you're posting on a frequent basis, perhaps 2 to 3 times a week. We're also speaking about, you know, is your branding, is your messaging, is the style of your writing all congruent with your entire marketing mix? And then if you are going to be doing paid campaigns, make sure that you are being consistent in those too. When you speak about being interesting, you know, again, that topic of diversifying your content is so, so important. And you could even go beyond that in diversifying your content to speak to the different personas within your audience. And this is really how you're going to start, you know, forming relationships with your audiences. You're going to start to understand the, you know, the nitty-gritties of all the different personas within your audience groups. And that way you're going to start understanding how to respond to really optimize your presence online. So with that, we're going to have a quick look at your poll answers. Just refreshing my page here so we can see what you all said. I don't see any votes just yet, but if you are, you know, if your campaign is generating awareness, then you would be one part of the 90% of brands who would like to build awareness through their social campaigns.
Okay, we are going to now take a dive into our next key motive, which is engagement. Engagement campaigns offer touch points for your audience to connect with you, and it's connecting with you on a level that you can't really do on other marketing platforms, such as your website, for example, or an email. You can't write a comment back to an email. I mean, I guess you could do a single reply, but something that's community-based, everyone can see and interact with, likes, shares, things of that nature. So we're going to talk about different types of engagement next. Key metrics that we're going to be monitoring here are average engagement rates. And again, that's something that you can compare to industry benchmarks, and click-through rates, which show how often your audience is actually taking that action and clicking through your advertisement to the place that you're directing them to. So before we get into it, we do have another poll question to ask you all. So again, the link will be dropped in the chat if it hasn't already. And the question is, can you guess the optimum range of characters, otherwise known as letters, in a post to maximize engagement? And it's funny because when we think about characters and letters, I think, at least for myself, immediately Twitter comes to mind. Like, oh no, I have to rewrite my post. It's too long, and sometimes that can be so bothersome for marketers or really anyone on Twitter, where you're thinking, oh, I have so much to say and I gotta cut it down. And the reality is that practice goes far beyond Twitter. That is a best practice for many social media platforms. With how much traffic is out there and how much different types of content people are seeing as they're scrolling through their feed, you ideally have 3 seconds to grab someone's attention, and not much longer after that to get your point across. So it is, this is definitely a key point that I think a lot of times it's good to remind ourselves that, hey, we don't have all day long, and as well written as a long form post might be, folks may have only a couple seconds to give you. So.
Absolutely. And with that, we're going to move on to the next case study, which really speaks to many difficulties that your association may have been facing during the pandemic. We know you were all faced with very difficult decisions. So we thought this would be nice to showcase how we kind of tackled a few limitations that we had in terms of the budget and, time and workforce issues. So we were briefed to run an engagement campaign for World Thrombosis Day for the second time. However, this time we had only 20% of the promotional and planning time, and we only had 30% of the budget. So how did we overcome this? It took a lot of brainstorming and creativity, but eventually we had to make quite a big change to the strategy. So what we decided to do was to narrow our audience personas and reduce our key messaging quite significantly. And just by doing this, we were able to really niche down on a very high quality audience. And from there, we were able to really mold and shape our messaging around that audience so that we were speaking directly to them in a very personal way. And I mean, these results would not have been attainable without our digital ad specialist, but we got a 233% increase in click-throughs compared to the previous year, which is unbelievable.
Awesome. Those are some great results. Wow.
Absolutely.
233%. That's awesome. Great. Okay, we'll move into another poll discussion now. So if we have poll results in, we can touch upon those. Tatiana, do you want to weigh in there?
This is Kate. Actually, I will, because I think we had some issues in terms of who could see the poll results, and I think because being an admin, so in terms of the optimum range of characters and letters, we had 46% of our audience thought 40 to 80% of the characters. We had 38% of our audience said 90 to 120 characters, and 15% of our audience said 150 to 200 characters.
Oh, it looks like most of you are on track. So posts that contain 40 to 80 characters or less actually have proven to earn 86 to 88% more engagements. So interesting fact, something to consider when you are creating your content is to really narrow down to one message per post so that you're really being as striking and grabbing attention, in a very strong and powerful way.
Great, thank you, Tatiana. And now we will move into conversion campaigns. So we started with awareness. They are aware that your association or brand exists. Then we moved into engagement of getting folks to click through to the link that you had placed. And so conversion campaigns are now sort of the final step in this matrix, where converting is truly they purchased something, they registered, they joined your association, they completed the final step. And so we'll provide some examples where we'll walk through some success stories that we have with conversion campaigns. Some key metrics to monitor here are conversion rates. So showing actually out of the entire audience that you were able to reach, how many of them turn into actual conversions, actual end actions for you. And this can range, again, anything from registering to an event, purchasing a magazine, to joining as a member. And again, these results are all extremely measurable on social media, which is truly an asset when you are reporting back to your key stakeholders, what your investment achieved. So before we jump in, we have another fun poll question for you all. What are the key actions you'd like your audience to take after engaging with your posts?
Yeah, I think it's also to note that, some of these may overlap in the sense that, if you're looking to grow your attendance, that will immediately affect how you approach your sponsorships. And the same would go with membership. If you have a larger membership database, you have a lot more prospects who are going to attend your Congress. So, they all kind of feed into each other, but we'd be very interested to see what your main motive is here.
Feel free to keep adding answers to that poll. I'm going to move into our first case study. Great. Okay, so the first one I have here is from the Medical Library Association, also known as MLA. And so the objective of this campaign was to promote their new self-paced courses. And so within this campaign, they wanted to really establish their audience, test the different creative out to see what would be most effective, and overall also increase awareness of these self-paced programs, with the end result to be having more people purchasing the self-paced program and participating in them. So as you can see on the right-hand side, we have 3 different versions of ads that we're running throughout this campaign. And as you can see, they're all a little bit different, but definitely look cohesive and related. You would see these and recall perhaps a previous one you saw, knowing that it is from MLA and that it was self-paced course. And so something that I really want to drive home here is that brand reinforcement drives results. The posting frequently is not a bad strategy, especially if you pair it with organic posts, which we'll touch on later in the presentation. But having these slightly different creatives and posting them on a frequent basis helps catch your audience at several different touch points in their sort of purchase process when they're evaluating, is this something I want to participate in? Do I have the time? And weighing their options. If you keep sneaking in there in their subconscious and you keep presenting your product in an appealing way, eventually you're going to get them to convert, and which is really exciting. So some key results from this campaign was 44% increase in users on the overall website, which was great because it was driving traffic even if it didn't convert. They had an 81% increase in their page views on the self-paced courses, and they had a higher number of course registrations than ever before. So it's showing that they actually converted more people using these advertisements than they had in a previous effort, which is an excellent example of how you can have simplistic and frequent advertising driving conversions.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you, Nicole. So we're going to move on to an association event, which ran for 3 months. We did a holistic digital marketing proposal for SBEN, which is a nutrition congress. And our aim here was to grow their registrations and their abstract submissions. So we attained some really amazing results. The social media Facebook ads alone generated 20% of the accumulated digital advertising conversions, which totaled to 69% of abstract submissions and 33% of registrations. And I really must note that, these results are attributed to, activating an entire digital marketing mix. So, going back to what Nicole mentioned about brand reinforcement, it's so important to be reinforcing your message across multiple channels. That's really going to lead to the best results. And I think something to be really mindful of as well is, being aware of what your customer's journey is. You could have the most amazing social media adverts, have the perfect audience, but if your landing page and your e-commerce platform are not facilitating your conversions and reinforcing the need to commit and to commit immediately, then your campaigns will not necessarily be reaching their full potential. And with that, we'd like to have a look at what you guys mentioned in the poll.
All right, so in looking at the key actions we would like them to take, we have 50% of our audience would like to join Renew Recruit membership. 14%, only 14%, interesting, purchase event registrations. 36% said visit your websites, and interestingly, apparently nobody is worried about money, so 0 for becoming a sponsor or partner.
So I guess from there, everyone has a clear sort of idea of what they want to achieve. So the next step is to set out some smart KPIs, key performance indicators, so that you have a clear path forward. And it may be that, you have more than one. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have one. And in our case, and perhaps in some of your cases, this requires some sense of investment into a paid campaign, which is going to lead us on to the next portion of our presentation.
Great. Thank you, Tatiana. So thank you all for taking the poll. It's really interesting insights. So this is actually going to tie in very well because we're now going to dive into paid versus organic campaigns. And so, this is always a very interesting conversation to have within marketing circles and within just overall association circles in terms of, what is the value of organic? How will paid drive results? And kind of understanding the balance between the two different options. And so one of the key things we want to lead into this portion of the presentation with is that thinking of organic as an opportunity to better understand your audience, reach them frequently and freely, is a true asset that will help your paid perform better. And so we have before you speak, listen. So before you paid, organic, and while paid, organic also, but really using them to complement one another and not necessarily in competition of each other.
Absolutely. And that kind of takes us into, tomorrow's US consumer trends. So times are changing, times have been changing, and social media is no different. We've seen over the years that social media's motives has started to evolve. More and more we're seeing it become a major contributor to the lead generation funnel and the bottom line. Just last year, 38% of US adults claimed to have made a purchase via a social media platform. So Facebook and Instagram being the leading sources today by quite a long shot.
Right, and to sort of walk this through and think about the historical context of this is, in the past, social media platforms really wanted to just grow organic. They just wanted people to follow their platform. They wanted to gain an audience to speak to. And so I think for a number of years, Facebook and a whole lot of other platforms spent a lot of time just trying to grow their audience, having free and organic advertising. And so what we've moved into in present day is this true changeover from that focus on organic to paid. And that focus on, well, if you pay more money, we'll help you reach more people because now we've built that audience. Now they're here. And so this is the tools we've developed to help you reach them. And so it's really that focus. And what we're starting to see and what we know is that in the future and in the near future, what will happen is social media will really become a true business function in terms of a one-stop shop, where folks will come in and they'll purchase an event ticket right within Facebook. or Instagram or whatever social media platform you're using. And there won't be need for all of this external click a link to go register on our page. It'll become very much more succinct. So for you folks who are on social media and on this webinar and learning more, you're at a huge advantage, because when those times come, you'll understand not only the importance of social media, but you'll understand the power of it as a tool for you to use to get direct conversions, where you won't have to put necessarily as much emphasis on channeling people through sort of a hierarchy to get them where you need to go. It'll be built in right there, register today. So another item that we want to touch on within paid campaigns is there's sort of this misconception that paid campaigns automatically will generate results, and that paid campaigns will automatically be successful just because there was a monetary investment, right? I think a lot of times what I've seen is there may be a conversation of, oh, it's organic, it wouldn't perform well, no one will probably see it because there's no investment, but if we pay money, this is going to do very well. And that simply is not true. And it's not true because you could put as much money in a campaign all day long as you want, but if you don't have a strong, attainable strategy with clear goals that drive every decision pre, during, and post campaign, those results will not see through. And so this is where social media becomes an art and a science. It becomes an art of content, but it becomes a science of understanding your audience and the science of knowing these platforms, how to set up audiences, how to determine key performance indicators and track them effectively. And it becomes, a point where you have to really understand the e-commerce side of not only your association, but also social media, and how to marry the two to get the best results.
Great. Thank you, Nicole. I guess we're moving on to any questions that you may have now.
So we've got a couple in the chat that have come up directly to us, as well as some other questions as it relates to the polls. So the first poll that we did get results on, which we didn't think we did, where that talked about, is your association's social media strategy generating awareness? We had 41% said yes, 18% said yes, but not the main intent. Another 41% said, I'm not sure. Can you guys speak to how our audience has a better way of identifying the awareness and metrics that they could track from them?
Absolutely. So once again, your main metrics here would be your reach or your impressions, and then your follower growth. If you have those results and you're not really sure what to make of them, they could all just be numbers to you. You could always refer back to the previous period of your page. If that's still not really helping you, I'd highly recommend to go and have a look at your industry benchmarks. There are quite a few different platforms and resources out there for you to have a look at. I know Rival IQ is a very nice one. Maverick is also a very nice one as well. So go have a look, find out whether you're meeting with the industry standard. And if you're not pleased from that point, go have a look at what your competitors are doing, and then you can kind of start to move around from that point.
I think that's a great point of thinking about the competitor side and how, where is your benchmark as it relates to where your audience may be going, right? So that's
Absolutely.
a great point. Thanks, Tatiana. Another question we've gotten was, what is the best way to target my audiences?
So I can take this one. The best way to target your audience, first and foremost, would be to pull the information that your social media has on your current followers and pull the information that you have on your actual member base, and sort of do some comparisons between the two and get a clear understanding of where those two are connecting and where there may be some variances and differences, if there are some. That will help you to identify who your audience is pretty quickly, in terms of, here's who we've got on social, here's who we have in our member base, or even maybe in prospective member base, in understanding who the audience on social is and how that relates to your greater member mix, or even your greater target mix. Another thing to also think about in terms of your audience is looking at building lookalike audiences. So what you can actually do within these platforms, for example, when you're setting up a campaign, is let's take Facebook just for example. LinkedIn and all the other platforms can do this as well. You can actually set it so that those social media engines will pull that information of your follower base and people who have similar interests, and you can dial it down by location, you can dial it down by different demographics, you could male, female, age range, location. You can get really granular in terms of identifying how to build that audience within social media and then design how to reach them with different campaigns. So a lookalike audience is another really strong way that once you've identified your audience, that's a really great way to ensure your ads are reaching those particular people effectively.
Absolutely. There's also the option to also use, your website visitors. If you have the right tracking tools in place, you can even go as far as collecting their their Facebook pixels, as they call it, and directly target that audience through their social channels, which we found great success in as well.
Great. Okay. One of the other questions we have mentioning personas, and how would you suggest creating those?
Oh, great. So if you go back to, the first few slides we did, again, it really comes down to, having an understanding of who your audience is. If your audience is going to be potential delegates, have a think about what profession are they in, what general age might they be in. If we're talking about a medical professional, I know that it takes them, perhaps 10 years to get their qualification. So I already know that my demographic is already, between the ages of 28 and above. So it's kind of speculating your audience based on all the facts that you know about them. And then again, also really listening to your audience, having a look at, what their value, what their interests are, and that'll really guide you as well.
Excellent. Looks like we have one other question. Should I pay for a follower campaign?
Nicole, do you want to take that one?
Sure. I think that would depend on your end goal, right? Is your end goal to explode your followers on a single platform? Then perhaps yes, that would be a good way for you to grow that followership number. However, if you're doing that in hopes that it will automatically have more people registering for events, joining and taking action, that may not necessarily guarantee that end result by paying for a follower campaign. It certainly can guarantee that there will be more awareness in terms of more eyeballs on content if you're growing followership, but it may not necessarily guarantee your other objectives, right? It may not fulfill your other objectives that you have going on. So I would say just be very cautious as in terms of what the intent is with that type of campaign. If you're paying simply for the desire, yes, we just want a lot of followers, we want more eyeballs on our content, yes. If the end goal is, well, the expectation is those people will then, pay to come to events, they will pay for memberships, that's again a separate and more detailed campaign approach that, as we discussed, takes a strong strategy, takes a strong knowledge of your market, and takes a few other steps other than just general awareness.
Yeah, I think, the quality of your audience really comes into play here. The way you're going to get a high quality audience is by pushing content out and having your audience sort of come to you in the sense that they really like the content that you're posting. They're really interested in that, so they're going to follow you. It's kind of like a different exchange. So something to be mindful of.
And something else to piggyback off of that, Tatiana, that I've seen, especially during the pandemic, a lot of associations doing that I think is a wonderful practice is, say you may not have the dollars to invest into a follower campaign. A lot of times what I've seen is different associations that are in the same industry playing nice in the sandbox and sort of helping lift each other up instead of being competitors, and sharing each other's content and inviting each other to come to webinars. And really, that's how they're growing the follower base, is by inviting like industry members who, let's say, they follow a similar association, by cross promoting that content and having some sort of an agreement or relationship. another approach in terms of, hey, we have the same end mission, let's sort of work together to lift each other up and build a big follower base that follows both associations and is involved in our membership, in our events, and in our educational opportunities. That's a really other approach too. Okay.
And that's a really nice way to kind of tie it all together, in the sense that, associations are built on creating connections, even if that is with affiliated organizations.
We actually have one other question, and actually as it relates to dollars. So in terms of the case study or client examples that were provided, can you provide any context in terms of the budgets you were working with? Most associations tend to have limited marketing budgets, and it seems you can spend a lot of money quickly for vanity metrics.
So I can't
go ahead,
speak
Nicole.
to specifics for many of mine, but what I can say is that many of the budgets were not super high budgets. They weren't, $500,000, let's say, budgets. I think a key part of the spend is that once you set up a campaign in, let's say, the back end of LinkedIn, and you get through doing the audience lookalike, the selection, the date and time, the creative testing, that whole side of the process, they will tell you how much budget to put in for how much estimated ROI. So essentially, they will tell you if you put in $50, you can expect this many people to engage, or based on, you can determine your end goal, but this many people to convert. So you can kind of get a sense of how many dollars will get you to the end amount that you're looking for. And again, this is where the paid and organic playing well together really comes into play, because especially with smaller budgets, if you reinforce even a smaller paid investment with frequent organic content, it will really push your paid out to perform much better than it would even at a smaller investment. So say you don't have, thousands of dollars to spend on social media. I would say even if you have $100, you can really expand that if you are strategic in your content, if you're strategic in the way you set up the campaign, you are adamant about monitoring its success and making multiple engagement touch points across. Let's say you have a newsletter, making a touch point to the campaign there, making a touch point on your website, making a touch point in a Facebook group you may have where people are sharing ideas, right? So the beauty of social media is you can be very creative, and you can reach people in ways that maybe they don't even realize you're reaching them. And so, again, budgets is absolutely always a concern and something to think about, but there's also something to be said with having ingenuity in other areas and being able to make a holistic campaign that not only focuses on the paid part of social, but focuses on it as an entire sort of world in and of itself that you can use to get the most out of the revenue that you put in.
I think that makes some great sense. So we're right at getting at time here. So Tatiana and Nikki, do you want to bring us home with some of our takeaways?
Yes, we do.
Yes, let's do it. Okay, so a few things that we really wanted to reiterate here. Number one, social media is your perfect tool in that it facilitates what associations are built on, and that is connections and community. Number two, key social media motives should determine your strategy and how you measure the success of your efforts. Number three, paid campaigns do not always guarantee success. This comes down to the strength of your strategy, your overall marketing mix, and how you're adapting it by listening to your audiences. Number four, organic content is your ears, paid content is your voice. And then lastly, the times are changing, the way that we are using social media is changing too. So, associations need to be mindful and need to be open to change, if they want to keep with the times and, capitalize on this new way of doing things. That being said, a holistic digital strategy that aligns across your entire marketing mix is always going to be essential when you're optimizing your campaign. Social media can't really be the be all and end all of your entire marketing strategy. And that's it.
Well, thank you so much, ladies. We really appreciate your insights today. I think we certainly covered and did a nice deep dive into social media. We certainly encourage everyone to follow us on LinkedIn to continue to see the results of those polls from our LinkedIn followers as well. I think that'll be very interesting. And if you would like some more social media tips and tricks, please visit our website. We have a link here where our case studies, and you can see some more great examples of all the work that our team has done to generate awareness and education and engagement for our membership. So thank you so much, Nicole and Tatiana. Thank you all attendees, and we look forward to our next session, and we'll be sending out that information very soon. Have a great day.
Thank
Thank you
you,
so much.
everyone. Thanks for joining us.